and we're back today with another episode of Secrets of Herbal Healing. And in the last few weeks, we've talked about parasites in humans, the different types of parasites, the symptoms of parasites. But today it's going to be a little bit more interesting because we're talking about treating parasites with herbs and with food. And you might be amazed at some of the things that you've actually got around that you can use straight away. But also towards the end, I'm going to share with you our parasite treatment program and how that all works. So I'm sure you're going to find this fascinating. Talk to you in a second. All right, so up in the corner there, you'll see a QR code if you want to follow along or have a look at the page afterwards. And you can also drill into some of the information further if you want to check it out there. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and I'll talk you through. This is where we left off last week. So we got to the stage of talking about how we pick up parasites with hygiene and various ways that we get the parasites or we can pick up parasites, and how important it is to give ourselves a parasite cleanse every year, just like we do with our animals. Interesting that we do with all the animals, but we don't necessarily think to give ourselves parasite cleanse, and it's equally important. Believe me, you'll really notice the difference when you do it. So let's look at what the food hygiene side of things. Really, it's a matter of being very, very clean. And it's not just with food, but in general, your whole environment, your house, parasites get brought into the house. But with the food, it's mostly meats and raw meats, uncooked or undercooked meats, but particularly fish and that sort of thing. You'll be really careful with chicken as well, because some of the parasites are also bacterial that we pick up. So just really good hygiene. One thing I recommend with meats is, if you're buying supermarket meats, is to don't wash the meat around your sink area, taking it out of a packet. You're better off to throw the meat from the packet straight into the pan or in the roasting dish or whatever you're doing with the meat, and not get it on your kitchen surfaces. And then take the packaging and take it out of the house and throw it straight into your garbage. And that way you don't contaminate your kitchen. And this is a really important thing when handling meat. So meat is the biggest problem really when it comes to contamination with parasites. So I thought I'd just mention that up front. But there is a lot of foods that you can use that are anti-parasitic. And a lot of these we actually have in our homes, and you'll be able to get access to and use yourself at home, and especially be able to include them in your food. And you can see a bit of a range of things there, but we'll talk through these foods individually. So chili pepper. It's an interesting thing that herbs and spices have been used around the world to flavor food, but also they work to protect the food and protect the gut by killing bacteria and other potential parasites that could come with the food, and help the body eliminate them as well. So chili is one of those things, and you might have noticed if you have a really hot chili that you get the afterburn the next day, which is the chili is still hot as it's coming out the bottom end, if you like, and you can get a burning backside from hot chili. So that just shows how it works all the way through your gut. And you can imagine that parasites don't particularly like that either. So it's got a compound in it called capsaicin, which is the primary active component in chili, and that's the one that makes it hot. And it can also disrupt bacteria, so it's antibacterial and interferes with the metabolism. It irritates them and causes their metabolism to be disrupted, and it can help expel parasites from the body. So that's hot chili. It'll work okay a little bit if it's mild, but really if it's hot and it's going to give you that afterburn effect, then it's really going to help eliminate parasites. So that's a good one to know. Garlic. So garlic has a compound in it called allicin, and it's a sulfite compound. So it's based on sulfur, and that's why you get that garlic smell of sulfur. Sulfur is common used as an antibiotic. So a lot of the antibiotics are sulfur based because sulfur is a natural antibiotic. And it's going to help antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antiprotozoal. So we talked about protozoa last week, which is an interesting one. Little single-celled parasites. And I recommend using about 6 cloves of garlic per person per day when you're doing a parasite cleanse. And it is good to crush the garlic raw and to let those sulfides come out from the raw garlic. If you cook it, it doesn't quite have the same effect. In fact, it won't have the same effect as an anti-parasitic. So that's really important to remember. And the great thing with these is that you can combine, especially garlic and chilies, combine those two and have them together in your food. Now, this is an interesting one, papaya, or pawpaw, it's also called. And you can get this, even in New Zealand, we can get it. It's imported, but it's a good all year round fruit to have in your diet because of the high enzymes. It really helps your digestion. But it's the seeds in particular that are anti-parasitic. And so what you can do with these seeds is you can get a tablespoon of papaya seeds daily and blend it into your smoothies. And that'll have a powerful anti-parasitic effect. So it's not something you quite often think to do when you're making smoothies because you'd normally take the seeds out and use the flesh. But yeah, during your parasite program, take the seeds and include them in your smoothie. That's a really great thing to do. This is another reasonably well-known parasite treatment in pumpkin seeds. But it's something I guess these things sometimes get forgotten, just how powerful they are and how effective they are. And you often think, oh, pumpkin seeds are nice to eat, but to use them as a medicine to kill parasites, you want to use probably the same amount, about a tablespoon, and grind them up or put them in your smoothie as well. So you could do the same thing with those. And when you combine these, when you get multiple things combined, what you're doing is you're increasing the reach. So because there's so many different types of parasites, there's so many different types of bacteria and protozoa that can be in our bodies, it's good to combine and use what you call the entourage effect or the synergy effect, and also the shotgun effect. So you get everything. And that's the whole idea with the Parasite Cleanse program. You want to do a broad spectrum program. So include as many of these things as possible. So what the cucurbita basin, it's hard to say that one, paralyzes the worms, which is really interesting. And there's another herb that does this as well. We'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so just move. Those are the foods you can use that you probably have available. These are the herbs we're going to talk about now, and they are probably not so available, probably not so commonly found in your pantry, a little bit harder to get, but they are a little bit more powerful. And so what I suggest doing is combining the herbs and the food together to get a really broad spectrum program. So black walnut. Now this is the walnut, when it comes off the walnut tree, has got a green hull on the outside of it. And then on the inside of that, there's another husk, which is the black one. And that's the one that's usually taken off to reveal the inner walnut, which is this shell here. So there's sort of like 3 layers, if you like. But you've got to get this husk here when it's black to have the compound in it called juglone. And juglone is the active compound in black walnut that's known to be antifungal and antibacterial. And it's also very anti-parasitic. It's shown to be effective against various internal parasites, including tapeworms, which are the big ones. Those are the big ones we spoke about last week. It helps to expel them. Can be very, very good at it's an antibacterial against syphilis, diphtheria, and leukemia. So quite an effective medicine, black walnut. It's often something that's sort of brushed aside as just being a food, walnut, but it's a very powerful herbal medicine. So a good one to know if you've got walnut trees around. But I'd say beware when you're processing this, because I've done it myself, and it's like the black husk of the walnut is like dye. It will stain everything black. And then we've got cloves. So these are the common cloves that you have in your kitchen pantry. And what you can do with these is grind them up into a powder. You can also use it as a herbal tea for stomach bugs because it's antibacterial. And the compound in there is eugenol, and it's the essential oil. So there's up 18% essential oil in cloves. And that's why they smell so strong. That's why they're such a potent herbal medicine, is because of very high content of this essential oil. And this has also been shown to be broad spectrum against microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, viruses, protozoa, and roundworm. So it's another fantastic anti-parasitic remedy. Next is golden seal. Now, you may have heard of golden seal. It's usually used in as a liver tonic, but also as a gut sealer. So that's why it's got the name golden seal. It's also, when you use golden seal, it's got like turmeric, a golden color, and it stains everything gold. But fantastic for sealing the gut. It's also broad spectrum antimicrobial against a variety of organisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, even chlamydia. So another powerful anti-parasitic remedy. And usually we use golden seal in liquid form, but I like to use it in a powder form as well, because you can get it down through the gut even better in a powder form. And it's the same with most of these herbal medicines. If you want to treat the gut in particular, it's better to use a powder. So liquid medicines work great in the nervous system, the respiratory system, and so on. But powders work exceptionally well with the digestive system and the gut, because they will move down through the body further than a liquid. So this is a good thing to remember when you're using herbal medicine. Horopito. So this is a native, traditional Rongo Maori medicine as well. And this is commonly used around New Zealand by herbalists because it's known to be antifungal, a powerful antifungal. And so when you're doing a parasite treatment program, it's good to have antifungal treatment as part of it, because candida is obviously a concern with parasites. And if the gut's in a bad state, then candida takes over and also invites other parasites. So horopito is a great one to include for that. It's got a compound in it called polygodiol. And yeah, it's been well researched actually, as all these herbs. So if you wanted to, you'll notice next to each of these there's a little read more, and that'll take you to either reference material or another article on that specific herb. So if you want to dig into the references and the research, which is really interesting. I always find it fascinating that there's so much knowledge and research and evidence for herbs, even with modern scientific literature, but also going back, obviously, thousands of years. There's anecdotal and empirical evidence for these herbs. So olive leaf, you may have heard that sort of came onto the market with a hiss and a roar in the 90s, and everybody was raving about olive leaf for the immune system. And it's got a compound in it called aleuropine and hydroxytyrosol. These are phenols. So they are responsible for most of the effect, antiviral, antibacterial, against a range of viruses and bacteria. It inhibits the replication and spread of viruses and bacteria. But something I noticed here with this one, and it's particularly good against, is Staphylococcus aureus, and even the antibiotic resistant Staphylococcus aureus. So that's good to know. And that's because obviously bacteria are actually parasites as well. They live on our body and survive on us. So part of parasite treatment was also antibacterial, antifungal. So it's not just treating worms here. We're treating everything, or all possibilities, in a broad spectrum sense. And especially if you can combine these things, which is what we do with our program, which we'll get to in a minute. A couple more herbs. So thyme. We use thyme in our parasite program because it's antimicrobial, antibacterial. It's also antiviral. It goes against most infections in the system, and it breaks the film, or the biofilm in the gut, and it helps prevent adhesion. So it stops these things from lodging in our body and taking, taking hold. And also antifungal. So thyme is an amazing herb, and if you've got that in your garden, you can use it if you start getting a cough or a cold or something in your throat. You can make a syrup out of it, even a tea, anything you can do with thyme, and use thyme essential oil. You can even add a couple of drops of that, but that's a great remedy. Wormwood. This is one of my favorite herbs, wormwood. It's a powerful bitter. It helps the liver function, but it's also known to be hence the name wormwood. It's been known to expel worms. Very powerful. It's got compounds in it called artemisinin, and these are sesquiterpene lactones. So these compounds are known for strong antimicrobial, antibacterial effects, and they disrupt the life cycle of the reproduction of parasites, as well as help to expel them from the body. All right, so there's our program. Now, this is the broad spectrum program, and it does come with a guide on food. So you include all of the foods we mentioned and all of the herbs we've mentioned all together. There's a few extra herbs in there as well that support the whole process. But you've got a liquid, a tea, some capsules, and a detox program or a colon cleansing program. And so I'll just show you those quickly. There's the colon cleansing program. You can get this in a powder, which I'd suggest probably is a good option for doing this. You get a 500 gram powder, which has got all of the herbs we mentioned, most of them in there. The wormwood, the golden seal, the black walnut, the cloves, they're all in there. And you take a large amount of this, so 2 big scoops a day, which is equivalent to having 40 capsules of a herbal product a day. So it's a mega dose. And we do a mega dose for a reason, and that's because you want to reach the entirety of your gut in particular, and you even want to get those herbs active in the liver. So you need a big dose of these herbs. And same with the food. You really want to focus in on the anti-parasitic food while you're taking the herbs to get a broad spectrum effect. Then we've got the ParaCleanse tea, and the tea has got cloves. So we know how powerful cloves are. It's also got some manuka leaf. So you may have heard of manuka honey. So manuka leaf has a broad antimicrobial, antibacterial effect. So it's really good to have in there. And you've got chamomile as a relaxant. So while you're detoxing and cleansing, it's really good to have some kind of muscle relaxant to help your bowels and your gut to relax and let go of things. And so you take 2 or 3 cups of tea per day. And then we've got the colonnade capsules. This is a top-up on the anti-parasitic herbs, in particular the wormwood, the black walnut, and the cloves. But you've also got some rhubarb and some cascara and psyllium in there to flush the bowels. And we take 10 of these a day, so it's quite a big dose. We're completing all of this over 12 days. And then we've got the anti-parasitic liquid. That's got a couple of extras in it. It's got the horopito, the golden seal, thyme, black walnut, olive leaf, but it's also got pau-d'arco, which is another powerful antifungal herb. So that's really helpful to have in there as well. And you do a 15 ml dose on this for 30 days. So this is topping up with anti-parasitic herbs even further. All right, so the anti-parasite program is combining all of these remedies all together and all the food. So just to reiterate that, it's the mega dose combination synergy effect. And here's an ebook that gives you an outline too. So if you wanted to download that, you can have it on your device and have a look at it later on. So that's pretty much it at this point for sharing the anti-parasitic herbs and food. I hope that's been helpful and it's given you some insights into how some of these things work. And also, I hope it's inspired you to consider giving yourself a good parasite cleanse if you haven't done so in the last 12 months, because there's nothing worse than having your energy sapped by something that doesn't belong in your body. And I think with the modern lifestyle, the stress, the food, the diet, and just a combination of exposure and also the habitat changes that we go through, it's really important to give yourself a good parasite cleanse once a year. So thanks for watching once again, and we'll catch up next week on an entirely different subject for a change. Talk soon. Bye for now.